Yeah.
Hey, yo, peace to the gods. This recording is in progress. What's up? What's up, son? How you been, son?
I've been
what
all
you
right.
been doing? What you been doing? You made an album, son? What's really good with you? How you been? How you living? You get any pussy? I didn't get any. I'm working on it. How's you been, son?
These are some rapid fire questions we got here. I'm doing all right. We got the blue and the brown backgrounds tonight. You know.
Yeah.
That's
Your
the vibe.
background is inferior, but you know.
Yeah, no, it is inferior.
It is what it is.
I'm not on Zaire's bed. He's got all these pictures of Sade and Miles Davis and Bob. Not, I was about to say Bob Dylan, but it's Bob Marley. Bob Marley.
That's not the same.
Not at all the same.
That's not the same. Oh shit.
But yes, by the time people are watching this, The Lingering will have been out for a substantiated amount of time.
How long?
Maybe a month, maybe 2.
Y'all in the future.
Yeah.
It's like over there.
You know, industry secret. A lot of these interviews are recorded way before the album is actually out.
Of course, as it should be. Once it's out, it's too late now. Stop asking me questions.
He's like, by the time it's out, it's like I'm already like halfway through my next album. Like, what do you?
Right, exactly. I'm already on the next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm already sick of talking to it. Listen to the album. Give me the streams. Give me the money. Peace. All right, let's get into it. So I gotta ask the obligatory questions.
All right.
What separates this album from the other ones? Like, did you take a different approach? Were there any things that you did on other albums that you wanted to correct? You know, what can people? Well, I guess they've already heard it, but it says, what did you do differently?
What did I do differently? Well, this is kind of a record I've wanted to make since Lost to Confusion. You know, COVID kind of happened, and that kind of, and also my personal life, and that kind of just threw everything for a whirl. But this is kind of what I imagined I would be doing a bit after Lost to Confusion. It felt like the logical next step in a sense. Because Lost to Confusion, I was moving away from being in a band to basically being the chaos ringleader, as one could call it, like having all these people together in a room and jamming and just kind of making tunes from that. And that became the basis of AE Soul. And of course, AE Soul expanded to like a 9-10 person group by the time we wanted to bring it to the stage. Because if you're going to do a soul band gig, you got to have the bongo player and the 2 keyboardists and just everybody up on that stage just doing their thing. So AE Soul became like this army. And my goal was that, I want to get these guys into the studio and like actually make some new songs, because doing these Lost to Confusion songs is cool, but you know, I kind of want to do some other stuff. And at that point, I was like already working on Content Madness, just to contextualize this for anybody who's paying attention. I was already thinking about Content Madness. I kind of had it all planned out. And COVID happened, and COVID was an all right time to release Content Madness. But, you know, it's not really an all right time to get a 10-piece band in a studio together and make whatever it is we were going to make. And stuff happened. I would just say that I had a lot of, I guess, battles with myself and who I wanted to be and how I saw myself in the world. And basically just sort of, my depression was taking over in a way that I knew was going to happen eventually, but I didn't know it was going to happen in the way it did. And so my first idea when I was just making this album was I was going to do Content Madness, but like 10 times fold, because Content Madness is just me in like isolated form. Like, it's just me at the core. Whereas, you know, Lingering, I originally wanted, I'm going to do Content Madness, the genre hopping thing, but I'm going to do it with a full piece band. So it's going to be like the maximalist version of that. But we started doing that, and I was just kind of wasn't really feeling it as much as I thought I was going to. Some of the tracks that we did, like Sunstrike, from those sessions ended up actually making it towards the record, and the after party somewhat of an extent. And I just kind of realized that I wanted this record to take a somewhat different form. I didn't want it to be like, well, I think in a sense it is sort of like all of my worlds in one sort of thing. It does have that sort of feel going on in it, but that's not like, whereas Content Madness, that was the purpose. That's not like that wasn't the purpose after a while for this one. The purpose after a while for this one was to sort of address this idea. I had this idea just that nothing ever really goes away. I had gotten sick with COVID, and so did a lot of people in my band. I was going through a lot of personal life turmoil in both the physical world and the mental world. So I just sort of like this idea that nothing ever goes away, because my mom and I, we be texting sometimes, and she texted me this one thing that said, "You've always had a sadness that lingers in you." And I was like, well, shit, mom, that's bars right there.
Exactly.
And I
Hey,
was just...
wait a second, mom, you're kind of spitting. And also, damn, mom, aren't you supposed to help with that or something? He said, thanks for alerting me. Thanks for letting me know. I feel way better now.
So I was talking with my artist boy, Dottie, the other half of Sugar Water. Shout out, Dottie. I feel like I have to give him a shout out in every one of these interviews I do. Shout out to the homies. And he was just like, that should be the title of the record. And I was like, that's what I was thinking too. But the sadness that lingers in you, or the lingering sadness, just felt very Scott Pilgrim. And he was just like, why not just call it The Lingering? It's kind of ominous. And I was like, Dottie, you good for this. Dottie be coming in clutch. So at this point, I was piecing together the bits that I did have. And I was like, I'm going to make this record that sort of is the idea that nothing ever goes away. And at this point, I was piecing together visual aspects of it, which I'm sure we'll get more into, and piecing together the tracks. And then I started making tracks with that idea in my head. And, it still was rather spontaneous. There are only a couple songs in here that I had fully envisioned before I went to the studio. And on those songs, it's great the way it came out. But I always wanted to give it a lot of freedom for the band to do what they do best. Because I feel like if you have a band that's that talented and you just make them play stuff that I could just do by myself, then there's no point in them being there. So a lot of the times I would enter the studio. We would do like every Fridays at like 8 p.m. We did that for like a solid 5 or 6 months, half a year. And we would just kind of jam. I would have ideas. Sometimes I wouldn't have ideas. More often than not, the times where I gave them little pieces of guidelines, those would actually make it on the album. Because, we did it for 5 or 6 months every Friday, and there's only like 9 songs. So not everything made the cut or was
Right.
finished.
I was gonna ask how many songs got left on the cutting room floors, or even how many songs did you not know was gonna end up on the album, but then did?
Uh, at one point, we were making so many songs that I kind of thought this was going to be a double album. And this was very early in the process. Like, this is before I'd be so ahead of myself that I was working on this record and I hadn't yet decided if I was going to put out Come and Go or not. So at this point, Come and Go was not out. And I was already like, yo, the way this is going, we might have a double album on our hands. And I was kind of like, it was a lot of things. I just kind of felt like I was hearing all these tracks we were making, and I just kind of felt like not all of them needed to be on this album, especially as it was taking more shape. I'm a very concise person. I like my albums to be like in between 30 minutes to 50 minutes. I don't want to do like a long player unless I feel like it needs to be that. And I didn't feel like we needed that this time. It just felt like short and concise was the way to go. In that ways, it sort of is the spiritual successor to Lost to Confusion, because Lost to Confusion is also sort of concise. Only for that record, we made the 7 songs, and I was like, yeah, that's it. We're not making any more. We didn't have any outtakes. I was like, yeah, that's it. We're done now. That's it. That's all. This one, we had so many songs, and some of which you can barely call songs. Some of them were just kind of jam sessions that I had, and I was like, how the fuck am I going to write lyrics to this? I mean, it's hard, but like, it's hard, like both meanings of the word.
You're right, it's hard, but it's hard though.
And like there were ideas like we wanted to make like, because like an underlying aspect, like hiding under the carpet, like the telltale heart on most of my albums is a bit of a hip hop influence. And I feel like that on this record, that's not really there as much. I think some of the production choices are hip hop indebted because I'd be listening to hip hop sometimes. But in terms of like songwriting and structure, there's not really like a song that's like hip hop necessarily. And it's not like that we didn't try. We wanted to try that, and we had a couple songs that were pretty fully finished in that sort of regard. And I just kind of felt like doesn't need it. This album had a very strong mood to it. There was one song because my boy Malgo on the sax, shout out Malgo, he does like quasi drill stuff in his solo. He's dropping an album soon. That tape's fire. But we made like this drillish trap thing where I was auto-tuned and it had a live band on it. It was hella interesting, but it also just didn't feel like it was finished, and I didn't really feel like finishing it. So that got left on the cutting room floor. A couple more reggae inspired numbers got left on the cutting room floor. Basically, a lot of the stuff that would have connected it more to Content Madness as opposed to Lost Confusion ended up getting sort of pulled back. We in an effort to get a fully live sound, except for the couple tracks that are drum machine from early on, like Prismatica and Fallen Again. Like those ones were just too good that I couldn't like just leave them. And plus I felt like they kind of tied into a lot of the ideas that were coming along into the record. But yeah, a lot of tracks, a lot of things made. Some of them, that Night and Day Here double single, we made those tracks back early on when I thought this was going to be like Content Madness but maximal. And I was just kind of like, I was hearing the album and I was like, these songs are too happy and too lovey for this damn album. It's not the vibe. But I need to put them out though, because they had verses from like half the band on them. And I was like, I'm not going to be a dick and just hide these verses. These verses are great.
Right.
Yeah.
Good is good. Would you say that COVID to some extent almost like delayed the lingering? And what I mean by that is, Content Madness, Come and Go, these are a lot more iPad driven. Whereas like, this album is really a return to the band format.
Yeah.
Do you think that in an alternate reality, things could have been, released in a different order or would have happened in a different order if COVID wasn't there?
Oh, an album that sounded like this would definitely have happened earlier if not for COVID. However, the album would not sound like it did without COVID. And you would have gotten probably a worse album, if we're being real, had this come out earlier. And just like the way this was written and the way this ended up being put together was just firmly influenced by just how I was behaving and how I was thinking during COVID. Like when I was just trapped in my house all the time, like we all were, I would just take walks in my neighborhood in the dark and listen to whatever I was making, or just listen to anything, or just not even listen to nothing, just silence. And I would just feel like I was sick to my stomach. I would just feel like I couldn't do it. But like hearing this music in my headphones gave me this sickly confidence. Like if I could make music that could make me feel okay or feel an emotion like in the nighttime in this dark woodsy neighborhood, then I knew I could keep going. Even if I didn't know it at the time, that's what I think I was doing. Like, our track together, Blue Screen, I was listening to that in the earbuds walking in these dark woods. And when the drums drop, I was like looking all over my shoulders and I was like, okay, yeah, we're making something interesting here if that's how I can react to it. And that's kind of the vibe I wanted to actually sort of get across in the Prismatica video, because you were there for that. We shot that in my neighborhood. That was basically where I was walking. We didn't go everywhere I would walk, but we basically took the main road of it and just turned it into this sort of retro MTV inspired, cool guy music video. It was fun. That was a good shoot. I'm a director somewhat.
Yeah, sick. I feel like with this record in particular, there's been a lot more focus on sort of like smaller aesthetic elements. And I mean that both within the songs as well as with the advertising that has been released for it. For example, the beginning of the album starts with the Morse code, and feel free to explain what it is. I don't even remember, even though you've explained said it before.
The Morse code. Well, because I can answer that question in two parts. I'll start with the Morse code. A part of me doesn't want to reveal what it is, but I'm going to, because at this point it's been a month or two that you've had the record, and if you're watching this, you're a fan. You can know what the Morse code is. The
If you
Morse,
got in this far,
yes.
sure.
The first Morse code was you have a sadness that always lingers in you. Literally what my mom said to me.
Right, right.
And the second Morse code is sometimes you have to find a way to be fine with uncertainty or something like that. It's a paraphrase. Let me actually pull up what it really is, because you deserve to know what it really is. It's right here. Okay. Sometimes you have to find a way to be fine with uncertainty. Yes. Okay. And then the final one was sort of something that I was just thinking to myself, and it's probably the darkest one of them all. It's I disappear. Every day it feels like I'm slowly fading away.
I mean, it's factually true.
Yes, but
A non-depressing way. That's
yeah.
that way. Is
Well,
it?
you really, I'm meaning it in
Right.
a darker way. Like it's
Yeah, yes. You said yes. I've been around you long enough to know that it's a darker way.
yes. So the reason why I've been going so ham on these visuals, and not only me, my boy Dottie, of course,
And can you explain, Dottie's roles and some of his contributions to how it came out?
Dottie ever since I met him in like late 2018, early 2019, we've been each other's muse. I don't want to give myself that much credit, but I feel like I inspired him to do stuff and he inspires me to do stuff, and we sort of offer each other little guidelines. So he always helps me tie loose ends together. He'll help me come up with track names. Like he was the one who thought that poem at the end of Lost Confusion should be called Learning to Breathe Again. And he helped me make Content Madness sound like a finished piece of work. He puts all these art together. He helps me sort of parse my ideas through. Through Come and Go, he was basically a guiding light to sort of be like, to sort of finish it, honestly, because honestly, I probably would have left a lot of that just to be unheard if it wasn't for Dottie. And on the Lingering, he sort of helped me do things that I wouldn't be able to do by myself, such as drawing, of course. He went ham on the fucking artwork because it's all hand drawn, which is a first for my aesthetic. Usually it's all very computery. And he sort of gave me, on the production aspect, he didn't have as many contributions as he usually does. Aside from the intro, he helped put the intro together, which was a 9-minute jam session that me and the band did, which I thought was cool, but I couldn't write any lyrics to. And I wanted to put on the album, but I didn't know where. At one point, I thought about having it just close on a 9-minute instrumental, but that felt kind of pretentious. And eventually we found Whirlpool and The Lingering, and that seemed like an even better ending because it actually had to do with what I was talking about. And so he just kind of edited the jam session and placed the Morse codes on top of it. Because at that point, I was very interested in the idea of having these Morse codes on the record. And I didn't know where to put them. So I was just kind of like, let's just put them here. And then eventually I had this big idea that I wanted to make a movie for The Lingering. Like I wanted to make like a full fucking movie. And I was like, nobody's going to stop me. I'm in Prince mode right now. Like, I'm going to make this damn movie, even if people don't think it's a good idea. And then I thought it was a bad idea. And at that point, I already had a lot of footage. And honestly, I was inspired by the way Tyler, the Creator, was rolling out Call Me If You Get Lost. I don't like that album that damn much. I'm gonna start with that. I don't like this album that damn much, but I fucking love the rollout process. He released these short music videos that were barely music videos, but yet they were also the best music videos of all time. And he painted a movie in your head. And I was like, I want to do that with the little bits and pieces I've already filmed for this film. So like we have like the Lingering teaser of sorts, which is not on the Suzuki channel, but is on my channel, which is where you're viewing this right now on my personal channel. What's up, guys? And I just like, I had this idea, like, the second half of the movie is going to be in the sunken world. It's going to be like I'm full. It's no longer we're no longer in reality. We're in this weird fucked up fantasy, and I'm looking for a way out. And that's why you see the door, and that's why I'm running to the door. And on the lingering itself, the album, there's a lot of lyrics that refer to trying to find a way out. Some of them literally say a doorway or a door. So it's conceptual. It's tying it all together. So I'm running to the door, and the plan in the movie was that you never see what's behind the door, and that's kind of where it ends. I gave it to Miles, and I was like, "We have this footage. I don't want to make a full music video. I want to do some like Call Me If You Get Lost shit. So just kind of edit it to be like a B movie horror trailer, and that's how we're gonna announce the album." So he
Right.
edited
That
it.
came out pretty damn good.
Yeah, he fucking killed it. Like he fucking killed that. I was not expecting him to go that ham. Like he mutilated the music too, to like such an extent. Like it was scary. And it made me a believable actor. And I'm not an actor. I suck. But I look like I'm scared in it. And that's good. Especially if you look at those behind the scenes footage, because that was looks bad. It looks bad, Chief. But like he put like some sort of weird dystopia on the other side of the door, but like it works. Even though it wasn't my original concept, like it works. He just ran with it. Enough so that I asked him to do another video that I had, which was the hurtful video. Basically, I had filmed these three videos and they were gonna take place in the sort of film, but the film doesn't really make that much sense. So I don't feel like I should take the time to fully explain it. I explained what Prismatica was. Prismatica is
Right.
cool.
Is that why the film didn't come together? Because you never, you know,
Well,
explained to the audience, so to speak, about why it didn't you didn't go through with it.
it was a lot of like there were some songs that I didn't know what to make videos for. And there was thoughts of like, okay, we'll have Dottie do some little animated cartoons. But quite honestly, I didn't feel like putting Dottie through more stuff because I was already making him do a lot for this album, a lot more than normal. And usually he'll volunteer to do stuff. If he doesn't volunteer to do something, that means he's being overworked. And he wasn't volunteering to do anything other than like the album covers and some of the videos. So I was just kind of thinking, am I doing too much right now? Is this gonna come out rushed? And I was just talking to Pranay, shout out Pranay, Dereja Vu, he co-runs the label. And, you know, I'm going to make a film for Content Madness. This is not like publicly known. Like, of course, everyone in the circle knows, but this hasn't been publicly stated. I want to make a film for Content Madness. I'm going to do it eventually when I have the time and money. That one is fully written and fully like devised. I just need the time and budget to do so. And basically, I told Pranay that about that film, and he was super excited. And then I told him about the Lingering film, and it just made me realize how less put together this was than the Content Madness film. And Pranay basically just said that out loud. He's like, the Content Madness film sounds like it's going to be great. This one kind of sounds like it's relying on the record being good. And I was like, you kind of have a point. So at that point, I got out of my fuck everybody, I'm making Purple Rain mindset to just being like, you know what? Let's just take what we have so far and make it the best it can be. Because we can convince people that it's a giant thing if we lay all the clues for them around in various places. So, like Prismatica, the video starts and you got this like weird landscape. It's like slightly MTV ish. It ends suddenly with the Morse code, and then the singles got the Morse code on it, and all the singles got these B-sides that are ambient instrumentals, which are not like the album sound at all. So they kind of feel like they're in a different reality. And then they end with the Morse code. And then each video ends with the Morse code. So you got to like, what's the message? What's he saying? The Cannot Know video is like this black and white thing where we're just kind of jamming and it's just all this found footage. And again, it's like this unreal retro element in these first couple videos. You see the lingering teaser and you sort of get the idea, okay, something fucked up is happening. It's not just like an accident that these videos all have a fucked up vibe. Like something fucked up is happening. And then Hurtful, we get this character that Miles created of this wolf, like with the cape, who I think in a couple shots has an eye mask. And then he's saying all these thoughts visually with speech bubbles. And like above him, I'm in a flower, kind of like slightly miming the song. And like the wolf is me, kind of. Like the wolf is like a representation of how I'm feeling. And then at the end of the video, you see me finally in like a slightly warped format in the same sort of warped world that the lingering teaser is in. And I'm waving goodbye and I'm disappearing. And then, of course, the Morse code says I disappear. Every day it feels like I slowly fade away. And if you're paying attention, you now get a sort of idea as to what this album is going to be. And then, of course, the album comes out and it begins on all three Morse codes playing at the same time. At the same time, it's like it was building. The roll up means something. It was there. And then you pay attention to the album lyrics and it's like, okay, yeah, you get it's a man dealing with himself, dealing with his depression, dealing with his illness, dealing with his personal struggles in both the dystopian imaginative world and the plain real world. I hope all of that made sense.
It's me. He said, shit, I was there.
Yeah.
On the topics of the lyrics, specifically the lyrics that stay in my mind is mostly the ones on Prismatica, but I'd argue a lot of the lyrics have a very abstractness to them, but on Prismatica, it's very blatant. You know, one bar that stands out to me is the color snatching out the window. What the fuck does that mean? What the fuck does that mean?
I think you were gonna ask about that one.
It's like I would.
Well, that's funny you mentioned Prismatica as the least abstract one because I think
No,
that's
I'm saying it's the most. I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I was about to say like that is like the most abstract one.
No, maybe I'm saying it's the most one. I'm saying it's the most.
Well, Prismatica is a return to the cut up method, which is something that I used in Room 13 a lot. And if you don't know what the cut up method is, it's popularized by author, poet, and fucked up man William Burroughs. He wrote his books by cutting up. He'd write down his thoughts, be it 1 words, 2 words, phrases, sentences, paragraphs, cut them all up, put them in a hat, shuffle them together, take them out. That's the order of the story. That's what the story is now. A lot of his books are like that. They're very interesting reads because you have no idea what the fuck is going on unless you're like really reading it. And a lot of people like David Bowie and Radiohead were kind of like, this is amazing. I want to write songs like this. So they started doing that. And I was like, this sounds cool because I don't want to just write love songs all the time. So let me like try this cut up method. And I was loving it. And I was using it a lot in Room 13, and I was kind of getting away from it for a while because I wanted to experiment with a more sort of free-form vocal or a more personal vocal. I mean, obviously personal, because I think all my lyrics are personal, even if they are abstract, but, you know, more obviously personal. I mean, you know, a song called Can We Do It All Again? And I Still Love Her, you know, all that stuff, you know, the nitty-gritty details. And so Prismatica, I was just kind of like, I want to make something that rocks again. I want to make something that's like really abstract again. So I just pulled out my notepad and started doing the cut up stuff, took my favorites, and I wrote that color snatching out the window line because I thought it was a cool bar. Like,
like I said, I don't need to know what it means, a bar.
Because I want to think about what it means in the deeper context of the album. Because honestly, that's one I've always wondered. Good question, because this is one I've always
where it's like when you it do be like that because sometimes I write some shit and I'm like, damn, what does that mean? Or a lot of times I'll write something that's a double entendre, but it'll be a triple entendre. But I didn't mean the third pun. I was just lucky.
Well, I tend to, when I'm writing abstract songs, I tend to use colors a lot in them. I'm noticing colors to communicate something that I'm feeling.
Yeah,
I think when I was
purple.
Yeah, purple in my thoughts, feeling of some loss, all that sort of stuff. But like, I think when I was literally writing it down, I was just thinking like, you know, people really be jacking each other's style. That's kind of like color snatching. So I was like, out the window, you see somebody wearing the outfit you're wearing. Like, that's color snatching. Like, that's what I was thinking when I was just writing it on the piece of paper. But in the context of the song, especially with the seeing purple in my thoughts line, I think it sort of is the idea that your mind is fogged with all these thoughts. And you're sort of seeing these thoughts in this weird dystopian fucked up format. which is what the lingering teaser is and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to say this every time. I'm just communicating
Right.
for the people in
Yeah.
the back.
Exactly.
And
It's in the back. They didn't
so
hear it.
like color snatching out the window, it's like you're looking out and thinking and you're feeling this energy from others and you're feeling this energy from yourself. And if you're thinking in terms of colors, that could be color snatching out the window. You could be having no real thoughts at all, you know?
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, when I heard that, I was thinking of it in a slightly more literal way, but I was when I see here color snatching out the window, I'm thinking, okay, the sky's changing, the literal colors around you are disappearing. When you go around certain people, they toxic as fuck. They take up the energy. They take up your energy. It's like, you do some you do monotonous things over and over again, the color behind them starts to fade away. So that's how I took it.
Now that's a bar right there. And
It's
I
a bar.
like this is the kind of I love when people take something I write or something somebody else writes and they come up with their own version of it because I feel like that's important to what music is because I feel like at a certain point the music no longer belongs to just me or whoever wrote it. It belongs to the world. So if you come up with something as the listener that's fucking better than what I thought of, then to me that's what it is, you know?
Well, I like how specific what you thought it was. He said you try to make a new slang with that one. He said, man, they color snatched my old steez, G. Bruh. I came out there with violet and next day they got purple on. You think that shit was a coincidence? Nah, fam. They snatched my color.
I mean, I'd be rocking the red pants, and I'd be seeing more people now with the red pants. I'm just saying. I'm just
Right. I'm
saying,
just I'm just saying.
it's your boy.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying, bro. Don't let them catch him out here with the white gloves, neither, bro. That's gonna
Yeah.
be deadly. That's gonna be deadly for you. You don't
Yeah.
want. You don't want us. You don't want to snatch our colors. You can't. You
Yeah.
can't handle that.
You can't be doing it. No, you can't. No, you can't.
All right. Oh shit. I've lost my train of thought.
That was good. That was a good little tangent we went on there. That was nice.
Oh no, for sure. I said the tangents are the best part. But, shit. Yeah. No, I completely lost my train of thought. Well, while I'm trying to regain it, do you want to elaborate more on Alternative Soul's role? Because I feel like we got to do it, especially for this one.
Yeah,
How
of course.
what was it? What did everybody do on the album? What did they contribute?
Let's go through a roll call, honestly. Like let's just go through the whole band. I mean, I'm gonna save Zaire for last. Let's start out with sort of the band leader, Tim Burney. Tim Burney is a lovable Christian man. They're all Christians, but he is a lovable Christian man. He's tiny. He has been basically rocking with me since the days of Lost Confusion. He is a translator in the greatest sense of the word. I will give him a small idea or a very basic chord progression, and he will use his blessed hands and just go all over them damn keys and turn it into a piece of art. And like, a lot of Bay Soul's role were literally just creating the music. Like sometimes they didn't even come in with an idea. Like the after party, I was working on that trap thing that I was talking about earlier with Malgo, but Tim came in and was like, I want to do something else and just started playing these damn chords. And Zaire was like, I'm going to start writing to this. And now my whole session was being hijacked. And I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this song then. I mean, this sounds kind of flames.
Damn, they're not wrong though.
Yeah. Brandon, he likes to go by Brando. I'm gonna call him Reverend Brando on the bass because he is a reverend.
I said Reverend Brando.
Yeah. He's the bass player. He's not on every song, but his presence when he's there is felt. Like he is a producer, and people don't be fucking, what's it called? People don't be seeing that like what all these guys do sometimes, like, and I think that's partially my fault, but I don't want to blame myself right now. And but like on Sunstrike, this man was going in and Sunstrike's a literal jam session. Like it's all improv. The vocal was an improv. It's live, a lot of like post-production manipulation by me, of course. But Brandon came in and was just sort of filling gaps. Like he pulled out the synthesizer and during the break was like weep wee dee dee, and the whole band was like nodding their heads and shit. And I was like, yeah, they'll put that on the record. Like, and then he started doing this jazzy piano solo, and I was like, put that on the record too. And Tim was over there not playing the keys, so he was caught lacking a little bit. But like Brandon was filling it in, and no offense to Tim, no offense at all. Like he take your rest, Tim, take your rest. And there's Sammy, who's the monster drummer. That's my name for him. He's a fucking monster. That's how I always introduce him. He's a monster. That man is like ADD. He cannot play one drum beat for the whole song, but like that's his talent, Like I'm pretty sure on the after party he cycles through like 5 different drum loops at like different points in the song, and he just kind of goes at it. And he'll like come into the studio and I'll have no idea what to expect from him. Like when I was doing Hurtful, I was expecting like some soft shit, but then he came in and started doing like this church like snare roll and like added the gospel edge to it. And I was like, all right, this is some interesting shit. And sometimes you'll just be playing something and he'll be like, add a percussion. He'll be like, give me the bongos. And I'll be like, all right, here are the bongos. You'll start adding some bongos. Like he's a one man like rhythm section. Him and Brandon, but like, in terms of like just drums rhythm, he's the one man rhythm section. And Sophia, I like to say Sophia is the lingering presence on the album. Cause having 2 guitars in a band gets a bit weird when you're in the studio and your producer and band leader is a guitarist. A lot of the guitar lines are going to be played by me, unless I feel like I want a different vibe. So a lot of the time, Sophia's presence on the album is one that's more bringing an atmosphere or enhancing a tension or a vibe. Like a lot of her guitars are processed through several effects so that they're like organ sounding or synth sounding or just part of the atmosphere. Like on Hurtful, all that stuff, that's all her. That's all her just kind of going off and put all that sort of stuff on it. There were a lot of traditional stuff she tried to do that I honestly didn't think wouldn't work as well. She wanted to do an acoustic on Hurtful, and I kind of felt like that made the song too full. It needed to sound like a little empty in that sort of way. But yeah, like on the title track, The Lingering, honestly, the band just kind of were like, we don't feel like coming in today. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And I was in the studio working on this title track, and Sophia just kind of came in and just came in clutch. She just kind of fucking did the drums and added the reggae vibe, and it was just like, it was amazing. And if Sophia is the lingering spirit of the album, the secret heart of the record is my boy Nervin's Malgo on the sax. That sax. And that was a surprise to I think everybody involved that was going to happen. I was hoping to do like a record with a lot of sax on it at some point, but I didn't think it was going to be this soon. He basically just came to the studio one day with a sax, and I was like, "You play?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want to just lay something down real quick?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And that was Fallen Again. This is like early on, like first month on the record, and he just like he added this thing. At that point on Fallen Again, I literally just gave him a melody and was like, "Here, play this." And he was a little nervous. He asked me to leave the room, and then he did like 3 or 4 layers, and I was like, you didn't need to do that many layers, but I was like, I was loving it. It was like this massive wall of saxes. So I was like, you want to just play on this whole album? And he was like, yeah. And he was amazing. He like on Whirlpool, there's like 16, maybe even 30 like saxes on that ending. And he's like, he plays out the album. It's just him and like a synth. And he's amazing, and he just kept laying down saxes, and like studio closes at 10:30, but like I think we would have honestly just kept adding more and more saxes had we not been kicked out like around 10:30, because like at that point the song was done. We had done Whirlpool. It was emotional for me because that's kind of like the heaviest song for me on that album, and he just kind of kept going in. I just told him like he was confused because like he was playing a nothing, and I was like, no, just you are what's happening right now. Just because he was like doing one, room, and he came out studio like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, just keep adding on top of that. Just keep going. And eventually he became comfortable to when we had 10, I was like, I think we're good. He's like, no, we're still going. We're still roll it again. Like,
He said, "Run it back, run it back."
and he just enhanced this album to, I think, like its maximum potential. I don't think this album could work without, I mean, this album can't work without any of them, but I think if we're not counting Tim, this album doesn't work without Nervins. This album, it feels like it's lacking something, and Nervins really brought out this new element in the songs, and just, like we're like not we're like using sax as well. Like what bands use sax as well? Like, do you know how many records I hear and I'm like, oh god, there's a sax solo now. But no, like I hear this record and I'm like, there's a sax on this one. Okay, like yeah. Like shit. And then um then of course, last but not least, it is Zaire. Zaire. My boy Zaire. Sorry, somebody just sent me a beat. Maybe eventually y'all will hear it, but like
Exactly. He said maybe eventually y'all will know what it is.
yeah. But yeah, Zaire, his presence is probably not as heavy on this album as Lost to Confusion, but he's there more. Like Lost to Confusion, he was there at every session and his presence is felt. On this one, even if he's not singing on every song, his he's there. Like he is a part of why this record is. And a lot of those back here's a secret. A lot of these backing vocals you think on this album are me doing harmonies with myself. I'm not doing harmonies with myself. That's Zaire. I'm doing very little actual backing vocals on this album. A lot of that is just Zaire, and he's a fucking genius. Like there are layers of Zaire just hidden on this album. And of course, we had to give him the spotlight on the after party.
Right. No,
We had to give him,
I definitely say they're hidden too, because if
yeah.
I've looked at the damn like the album credits, so to speak, and I'm just like, damn, Zaire in the background on this too? Where? Where he at? But he's there. It's like, but he's there, like all of the time. And I'm just like, this man's Zaire.
He's really there all the time. And that's the sign of a good backing vocalist, when they're there and they're essential, but you can't tell that it's not the lead singer just doubling themselves, you know? Like that's a sign of a good backing singer, when they can just be that presence. I also have to give a shout out to Tim's cousin, Stephen Burney. He is not on a lot of this album, but he is helping us put a lot of the live show together, doing some of Zaire's layers and whatnot. And he is on the title track. He's in the choir of ghosts doing the. That part is hard. That's one of my favorite parts of the album. And
Yeah.
yeah, those are the roles of the people. I keep not going into details about the after party because I'm waiting for you to ask something about it. I don't want to give it all away.
No, I mean the job is just that you say it. So whether it comes from, I'm not really here to just take credit. See, I said, see, I asked a good question. He said, see, I know how your brain works. I know you're gonna talk your ass off anyway. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Unless I have to literally think out loud, the better.
No, I mean, you're giving me the good thoughts, like I'm thinking about this shit. But yeah, the after party. At this point in time,
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask, what was the hardest songs to do, and what was the most difficult parts of the album in general?
100% probably the hardest song was the after party. But in terms of like, before we get into that, because that's like a whole thing. Let's the hardest part of this album, other than the after party, was probably honestly the visual aspect of it. The music, once I figured it out, came together very quickly, but the visuals were more sort of a lot of planning was involved, because there was a whole plan, and then I was like, nah, this plan is bogus, and then we had to like revise the plan as I was talking about earlier. But yeah, the after party. So yeah, we were at a session. It's like early in the album's process. At this point, I think only Prismatica, Fallen Again, and Sunstrike were done. I think we had Night and Day cooking, and we had a bunch of other outtakes that we didn't end up using. But like in terms of finished pieces of the record and the Night and Day accompaniment single, we only had that so far. And at this point, the record's sort of in its Content Madness 2.0 mindset, where I don't really know what it is, but it's going to be probably like another genre hopping opus type shit. I mean, it is a genre hopping opus, but like that's less the focus. Uh, so Tim came in, we were doing this trap piece, and he was like, fuck this, and started playing this new chord progression. And me and Zaire were instantaneously like, okay, I guess this is what we're working on now. So I made a new session, and he recorded it. And I was like, my original vision for this was going to be some like Flashing Lights by Kanye shit. But it ended up being the shit that Flashing Lights is trying to be. It ended up being like that cookout music, that old soul disco, some Gap Band shit with like hints of like Pharrell Williams, because I love Pharrell. So if I'm on it, I'm gonna give it that little Pharrell twist, because he'd be making little cookout jams sometimes. Not that I would know per se, but like you know what I mean.
He
And
said, I haven't been to the cookout yet.
I mean, I was actually just at one, I guess, but
Did you get the cheap burgers? Wait, you don't eat meat though.
they
You'll
had
never
veggie burgers.
experience.
They gave me the cheap veggie burgers.
Word. I'm
Yeah.
like, you'll never experience the cheap, honestly, not that good cookout burgers. They're always there.
No, but yeah. So at this point, I was kind of in a bad mood at this session, and I was like, man, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna sing on this song. It's so fucking happy and shit. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just gonna like add some guitar and a little some synth, and I'll let Zaire sort of take over because he's kind of doing his thing right now. So I was adding like some production elements with the guitar, and I think my label Suzuki put out the pictures from that session. If you go back and look, I do look very disgruntled with the guitar on me, and I'm laying down the guitar. Sammy's laying down the drums. At this point, his drums are very ADDD. Most of the band's not there yet. There were some times where the band knew that it was going to be a songwriting session, and I kind of suspect that not everybody showed up for those. But yeah, but Sammy showed up. Tim showed up. Tim laid down a demo bass line. Sammy laid down a very demo groove that, as I said, is very ADD, which I said too many D's, but too many D's. And our roommate Roger's there, and he's sort of just chilling. And we have very little idea as to what the song is right now. Well, Zaire's got all the idea. I have very little idea. Everyone else in the room had an idea what the song was except for me. All I knew is I had the kick-ass synth line, and I was going to program it and lay it down. So I laid it down, and Sammy was like, round up, everybody, make your way down. And I was like, all right, we're getting the Soul Train vibe. This is cool. Zaire's got this whole ass. He's got a whole verse and a hook. And I'm like, well, goddamn, maybe this is just your song. Like, I literally thought, like, this doesn't fit on my album. Maybe we should just give this to Zaire. He kind of needs some tunes. I mean, I know he's got tunes, but he's never motivated to release them like that. He's working on something right now. Not that it's my place to give that away, but he is. So I was like, why don't you take it? And he was like, I'll take it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a feature verse and a backing vocal line that's sort of like a counter hook, come with me through the night. And I was sort of like, if Zaire's gonna write about taking this girl home, I'm gonna write about how much I don't want to be at this party, but how much I'm looking forward to sort of being with this girl. And I talk about dissociating on it, and dissociation is a big part of the lingering sort of concept, with the dystopian fucked up worlds and whatnot in the head. And I said I wouldn't say that again, but I said it again. And so I had this thing. I got this line. It's pretty cool. Me and Zaire agreed that this song needs more work. I'm showing the demo around, being like, hey, check it out. I made this thing. I'm not sure how I think of it. I showed it to you. I showed it to Dottie. I showed it to Miles, Sherman. And everyone was sort of like, bro, this is fucking sick. Like, this could be a hit single. Like, don't give this away type energy. And I was like, okay, I guess I can't give this away. I kind of already did, but I mean, I can ask Zaire if he's cool with me, like, taking it back.
Zaire.
Yeah. So
give it back. I want it back.
At that point, we brought the band into the studio again, and we tried to do like a live take. but I didn't want to redo my loops, my guitar loop and like the micro chord loop, the doo 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 and all that. I didn't want to redo any of that. I didn't even want Tim to redo his loop. I kind of just wanted him to add some synth flourishes, which led to that solo that happens in the middle of the track or the end of the track if you're a casual and you listen to the radio edit. And so we were just kind of jamming it live. I felt like we needed to do this live. So like I'm in one vocal booth, Zaire's in the other. Sammy's in the middle of the room. Brandon and Tim are in the control booth. And this is how studio sessions go because, you don't want bleed on the tracks and whatnot if it's live. But, it's kind of awkward doing that because it's live in like the loosest sense. You can't really see each other. The band can't really communicate with each other. So we basically just sort of spent this day trying to figure out how we could communicate with each other when we can't communicate with each other. And, Tim, of course, came in clutch for that. And we just sort of like, we need to redo this completely. Like I went home and listened to it. I sent everybody the test bands and I was like, yeah, we need to like redo this again. And at this point, I had never done this with a song. Like I'm very sort of, I will be in the studio until it's finished type vibe. That's my vibe. I had never like sat on a song and went back to it multiple times. And we did this a couple times on this album. And I think that's part of why it sounds more fleshed out and finished than some of my other records. Not that my other records aren't finished before people start doing that shit. Just, different.
Don't take me out of context.
Different vibe. And so we came back a third time. We're locked in. We still didn't really know how to end it. Honestly, the ending came about simply because we were being kicked out. Like Zaire had this bridge, like, I just can't wait to see you. You're all I need. And then, no, actually, he had a bridge and I wrote the line, I just can't wait to see you. You're all I need. And then he wrote the line, the passion here for loving will set you free. So that was a collaboration. And I kind of thought we can end the song like Cookout way, like Charlie Wilson type shit. We'll have everybody singing it in a room. We'll get a big mic. Everyone will be around clapping it. They'll sing the bridge and then it'll end, type shit. And and we did the clapping and basically everyone was disgruntled and tired from doing this song. So everyone was like, we don't really want to sing this right now. And it's also 10:30, so we need to leave. So I was like, okay, I don't want to get in the studio with this song again. I'll figure out a way to end it. And thank God I said that because that would have been cheesy had we done that on this album. And
yeah, it would have been cool.
Yeah. And so I was kind of like, because we had so many takes and I had all the takes. Like, because I was literally just chopping different times of us doing the song together. People think the after party was done completely live. It wasn't. I chopped it up from 3 different versions. And then I had one version where Tim was playing a very different version of the same chord progression. And I was like, what if I put this on at the end and we do like a Frank Ocean type outro with no drums? But then I was like, no, we need drums on this because drums are fire and bass. And I was like, what if we make like a pseudo reggae outro that's all trippy and shit? And it's like, after you, this is like you taking the girl home and you're like having some nice smooth sex. And so I was like, Zaire, that verse we wrote, why don't you just like sing it softly over this outro? And he was like, yeah, sure. So then he sang it and then I chopped that up and I affected him and I did some like come with me, sultry shit. And and I was like, this is still great. And this ending is more melancholic and could tie it back into the record as a whole, but it needs something else. And I was like, you know what it needs? Spoken word. I'm waiting for like the groan of some sort from you, but no, all right.
I'm not gonna do it what you advertise. I mean, I like spoken word as much as this next guy. I don't do spoken word per se, but that's sort of what I do every song I've ever made. He said, argue. It's just me speaking words. But yeah, he said the secret weapon. He said, I don't know, spoken word.
Because I think spoken word can sometimes be very pretentious, but I noticed that I've been using it sometimes as a secret weapon on my tracks. Like Lost Confusion ends with it. A major moment on the Come and Go record is that. I think Content Madness is the only one where that doesn't happen. And not that we didn't try. There is a track on the Content
Hey, somewhere.
Yeah.
Buy the deluxe edition of the album or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I was like, okay, so we have the after party. We took the girl home. It can't end with just that. Of course, the girl's got to leave. Like you got to wake up and she's just gone. So, I
some
wanted to
people would
give.
argue that's the good part.
Well, I'm a hopeless romantic, Kaiser.
Exactly.
At least
but
I
now
was when I was writing this. Now I'm not. But now I'm not. Don't get me, ladies, men, hit me up. I don't want anything. Just like
say, hit me up. Just cause. No reason.
yeah. But okay, like we'll end the story. She leaves, and you're sort of lost. You're walking down a dimly lit road, thinking about it because that was on my mind, as I said earlier. You walk the streets roaming. I wanted to give the song the vibe that it could loop. That like you're walking down the street, you see another party, you make eye contact with a girl in line, just like you did the night before, and the whole song loops again. I wanted to give it that vibe. And yeah, but that was the after party. And at that point, we had it all together. I think some of the band were a bit confused by the ending at first, but they all love it now. So, we did the right thing. We made it grow.
I said they all love it now, so I've won. I'm the real victor here.
Yeah. And it transitions into what is my favorite song on the album. Actually, no, my favorite is the title track because I made the title track, but my other favorite song on the album, Hurtful. That song is
right.
Oh, it's sad.
That hurts.
Yeah.
I dare say it's hurtful. Shit. Damn, we went long on that one. Let me think. What the fuck happened? I asked. My back kind of hurts from this chair.
I felt that. That's why I'm in a bed right now. I knew if I was going to be sitting on a chair, I'd be like, yeah, I need to be in bed.
I can't give up the background now that it's all looking nice. I'll fly. I can't. Oh damn. Damn. No. Shit. See, the problem is you answer the questions too good. So I have half thoughts that I want you to clarify, but then I forget them because you talk forever. You make my job harder and easier at the same time.
I mean, there's other songs on the record.
Yeah, but I don't have this.
He was like, I don't care about those.
Nah, I mean, they were kind of smacking actually. Like the latter half of the album was hitting harder than I remember, but I don't necessarily have questions about every one of them.
I mean, the latter half is a lot. Latter half, I mean, I guess the sort of just spitball.
Yeah.
The first half is sort of it's misleading in a sense because aside from the intro, it's very like happy sounding, like it's up tempo.
It's up tempo, yeah, upbeat.
And then Hurtful's the outro of the after party into Hurtful is sort of the transition into the sunken place. It's when everything starts it's when we start revealing our true intentions.
Right. He said it's the part where you realize that everybody's dead and they've always been dead.
Ooh.
Did you always know that the album was going to be broader? Like there's a a sort of apocalyptic streak to it, and I'd argue that's kind of always been a thing about your music, but there's a lot more of a embracing of it. It's not as obviously personal. Did you know it was going to be like that from the beginning? Like, was it a conscious decision?
I mean, yes, as you said, a lot of my stuff leans towards apocalyptic. It helps that we are living in the ends of the world right now. So that just kind of seeped more. It just kind of seeped more through into the music. And it felt like I was living in hell, like literally, like over COVID through my own life and just having COVID and just the experience of the pandemic. I felt like I aged 10 years. So I felt like I just tackled this album with a different energy than I had previous albums. It more mature, a more like, it felt like a new beginning, but it also felt like I have been there. I have lived in this studio and I know what I'm doing now. It felt like I was learning, but I also felt like a wise sage. I was both Poe and Master Oogway. I don't know why I just made that reference, but there you go.
Kadoosh.
Yeah.
um yeah, shit. So you were saying that on the lingering, were you, because I don't want to misconstrue your words, were you saying that the lingering, the title track, was the one that you mostly did by yourself?
Um, I think the one I did mostly by myself is Prismatica, because that all the instruments on that are me, and I would have honestly left it just me, but I I knew I wanted it to be on my next record, but I also knew I wanted my next record to be a band record. So I was like, how do I fit this into the overall thing? And of course, it did fit because lyrically it ended up being on the nose, but I ended up fitting it in musically by um what's it called? By having Zaire, Sophia, and Tim overdub backing vocals on the hook. And I was a bit like confused by if I wanted that or not, because it felt like this is very like big. Usually I'm very minimalist, but going out of your comfort zone is important. So yeah,
I
and
think,
yeah.
the bigger, shit, I was gonna say the bigness, but I don't like that word choice. Let's go with the I don't know, the massiveness of the track. Definitely adds to it, the feeling of it being a good intro. It's a very cinematic opening.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I knew that had to be the opener, simply because just it just kind of it's a fucking bang. Like I haven't opened my record on a bang in a while. I mean Dominic Clutter I guess is a bang,
Yeah,
but like
Dominic, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure it's the bang anybody wanted or expected, but it is a bang. It's multiple bangs. It said
I,
it's a lot of bangs.
I wanted it to be a triumphant return because it felt like I hadn't made something that rocked that hard in a while. Like I wanted to be out of the gates like, guess who's back? And
Exactly.
it's
That's
just
right.
like,
Right.
so like when as soon as I made Prismatica, I wanted to just drop it. Like I didn't really wait for the album. I was like, no, this needs to come out now. And at that point, Come and Go hadn't come out yet, and I was like, no, I need to wait, but it needs to drop. No, I need to
Right.
come
Right.
out. No, it needs
Right.
to drop.
It could have easily had come out, if Come and Go wasn't obstructing the priority, so to speak. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely get that. Like there's certain comeback sounding records where you're like, yeah, I want to drop this as the single just because it sounds like, hey yo, guess who's back, bitch? Said I've returned.
It's my favorite production. And I think it says something that it's my favorite production because Prismatica is the only one that didn't make it to the studio at all. That is all like
Mm.
dorm room, lo-fi bedroom takes, and it sounds fucking amazing. I've grown.
Yeah,
I made this on what I'm like talking to you on right now. It's like
said I've evolved. So all of that was, so there was no, was there any live component to Prismatica?
I thought about getting some live drums on it, but I honestly felt like the live drums were the rhythm needed to be mechanical. Like live, it's a very different rhythm. It sounds very punk and I like it, but like the song in its studio format needed that tight motoric format. You know what motoric means?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool, cool.
I mean, even if I didn't, it's kind of in the title.
Yeah.
It's a
It
context.
needed that tight format because especially because a lot of the album isn't that tight. So I needed a couple of glimpses of that because a lot of my music before this is very tightly wound together with the drums. So we needed a little bit of that. Fallen Again also brings that in. And Fallen
Right,
Again
right. Definitely
and
Falling Again comes to mind.
Fallen Again and Prismatica were both made before I fully realized what I was making. Fallen Again's old. Fallen Again I wrote during the Come and Go sessions. I say sessions like I wasn't just in my bedroom, but like but But like I was writing that, and I was like, this is a good pop song, and I didn't know how to fit it on Come and Go, and that version's a lot more robotic. I was just kind of like, this kind of sucks. I would just wait for it. And I knew I liked it. I wanted to wait for the right time. So I was bored in my dorm one day. I had just made Prismatica. I was feeling like the shit. I was like, let me tackle Fallen again. I got this song, like redid the drums, added a new bass line. It was a tight ass rhythm. And I was like, this would be cool with like some gospel chants on it, but not really gospel, but like that sort of vibe, and some rock and roll piano and like some sax, I guess. I don't know if I had that in mind when I was doing it, but like, sax would sound good in this because it's like kind of ska-ish, like robots doing ska. But like, like that outro was long. I'm surprised because I expect when I got Zaire, Sophia, and Tim to do the backing vocals, I just kind of thought they were going to do a couple and then tell me to loop it. They just kept going, and I was like, well, if you're going to keep going, I'll keep going. Like, and then at the end, you can actually hear Zaire going like, oh my god, like just like how long is it?
And you just in the studio like, I mean, I could have told you to stop, but I was like, right, but you didn't, so.
I was talking with Dottie and they were like, Dottie was like, you should not put Prismatica and Fall Again on the album. You should make it a double single before the album drops. And I was like, no. I mean, I did think about it because it's Dottie and I appreciate Dottie's opinion. But after I was getting the album, I was like, I know these are a little different, but the album could use a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's wrong, because I think if you had taken them out, well, I think one Falling Again is different, but I think it kind of reinforces the vibe. It does not feel out of place at all. And then Prismatica is, more obviously the single of it, but it's a great opener. And with that, I think if you take those two songs out of it, the album's probably a lot more repetitive.
Fallen Again is going to be a fun one to do live. I've been workshopping it a couple of the open mics in my town. It's fun. You get the good energy, get people on their feet clapping and singing along with the again, again.
You say it. Do it again. Yeah, no, you were saying that the all the Prismatica drums are tight, which I think or mechanical, I was going to say rather, and I think it's sort of obvious because there's a strictness to how they're played, but at the same time, I'd argue they sound like live drums. That's why I asked, was there any live component to it at all?
I thought about, well, I mean, I appreciate that. I'm glad it has that like live drums being mutilated vibe because that's kind of what I was going for. But yeah, we tried adding some live drums to it. It just felt like it was too loose of a component for it. It needed to be tight. It needed to. There was already like not enough space on the track from all the noises, so to add like drum noise onto that, it would have been a lot.
Word.
Yeah, but as you said, the lingering title track, I guess it's not really mainly me. I mean, I guess it's more me than some of the other songs on the album, simply because not everyone was there for it. The lingering title track took me all day. I think I went to the studio early because I was like, we've done a lot of spontaneous jams. Let me like try and write something before the band comes in. So I was like, hey, Tim, if you feel like coming out early to the studio, we're going to be in one of the smaller studios and then we'll go to the big studio later. And Tim was like, yeah, I'll come through. Tim's the boy. And I was just, I kind of want a reggae-ish vibe. And he was just start playing doop, 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 doop. And I was like, this is kind of the same key as another reggae song I have, but like it's reggae, so it's fine. You actually pointed that out to me when I sent you the song, and I was like,
I pointed out because I was listening to it again. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, similar ass chord progression. The vibe as the singing part it transitions into feeling a lot different in context. But as soon as the beginning part comes on, I'm like, there it is.
It's Removal from Content Madness.
Right.
It's the second part to the song everybody likes. But yeah,
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't ready.
Y'all know what happens on Earth stays on Earth.
Here we go.
Catch up, Squidward. I said Squidward, by the way, for anybody and but yeah, Tim came in, did it. It was A minor, a lot of reggae's in A minor. I was like, all right, this is fine. And he did that. I wrote the lyrics. I was like, Tim, you think these sound good? Because I wanted his opinion. He was like, yeah. Because at that point, I was like, I do want a titling track. Not a titling track. I do want a title track. At this point, I had the title of the album, and most of my albums have a title track. So I was kind of like, this sounds like it could be a title track. And I'll get into why in a second. Let me finish the process of it. Because you bring up something there with the this sounds like something thing. So I did the vocal. Tim's cousin Steven showed up. And at that point, I'd only just met him. So he was vibing with it. And he was like, this sounds kind of tight. And he was like, can I do a backing vocal? And I was like, sure. And I said I wanted him to sound like a ghost. So he sounded like Ghost. And then Tim was like, can I do a backing vocal? I was like, sure. He did one. I asked Zaire to come in and do one. I wanted my boy JoJo. Shout out JoJo, Kayla Jo, as some of you might know her or them. Yeah. And I wanted them to come through, but they were too busy. That's all right, though. Shout out anyway. And I was like, yeah, this is great. We have like a nice little army of backing vocals here. I was like, Tim, you on the outro, you should add like a piano solo. So he had a piano solo, which I mutilated with reverb and whatnot. And I was like, this outro should get really reverby. Should get like a storm brewing type vibe. Like it's like all the build up to that moment, like the climax finally. So at that point, I was like, this is going to sound tight when the band gets here. And Zaire tells me, oh, the band went mini golfing. They're not coming today. And I was like, well, that means I can do the reggae bass line. And I love doing reggae bass. Bass is one of my favorites to do. So I was like, I rarely get to play the bass on my record because I let Brandon or Tim do it most of the time. So let me play the bass. So I was like, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, this is smooth. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, without the drums at that point, I was like, this is kind of reggae-ish, but like it also has like a weird like music hall vibe. Like it sounds like a song that like British children would sing in the 20th century. Like it would be at the end of a cartoon. Like it's like a march to the death, sort of like it's like the dark let's all go to the lobby. Like it's like a song that like a mocking group of kids would sing, like you don't know what you're doing at all type vibe. And just like
You really pulling out the real references there.
like that was the vibe. I wanted it to seem like a mocking like death march, like sort of like it's bright, it's cheery, it's got a big band vibe, it's got the reggae vibe, but it's also mocking you a little bit. It's like even after we're all gone, it lingers. You'll never escape ever. You're never escaping. This is never. So Sophia came because Sophia is the boy, and I was like, "Can you do some like reggae guitars?" And she did one. I was like, "Do another guitar." Did another guitar, and I was like, "Shame Sammy's not here. We could use some drums." At that point, I had the synth womp 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 womp. You know that line in. You know, all organic synths on this record, by the way. The drum machines are digital, but all the synthesizers on this record are real. It was just first for me, all organic, all programmed and twiddled and whatnot. And Sophia was like, I'll do the drums. And I was like, yeah. So she came in and did the drums. And then I said, you got to do the dub snare, the thing. So we did that. And then she was like, the outro could use a second drum line to make it seem like disorienting. And I was like, yeah, go for it. So, you know, writing credits for Sophia and added that second drum line. I mixed it in the studio right there. And I was like, the sound's kind of rough, but I think it should be rough. And Sophia, who usually tells me my mixes are too rough, was like, no, this is perfect. So I was like, okay, yeah, then I guess we did this then. At that point, I was like, this is the closer. But then we ended up doing Whirlpool. And I was like, this is kind of a better ending, even though I wanted it to end sort of dark. But hopeful is kind of okay, or at least slightly hopeful. But I kind of realized I wanted it to be a title track as soon as Tim did the chord progression. And I was like, it's the A minor G chord progression again. I don't just use the A minor G progression on Removal. I'm going to let everybody know a little secret here. Like it's on Removal most notably because it's also a reggae vibe. But Plea to Win, the first part also is A minor to G. Content Madness is A minor to G. A lot of Content Madness goes between the A minor G chords to give it that cohesion. I Was Happy does it too. Forgot about that one actually for a second. But even going back to like, it all has the vibe of a very early song of mine that I feel like was kind of a turning moment for me as a songwriter. I don't think it's perfect, but it's a song called Alone. And it was sort of, it was probably the first time I had ever blatantly written about my emotions in such a way. I don't think the track is perfect, and if I were to go back, I would change things about it, but I do think it's one of my better songs in terms of writing. And I kind of sometimes intentionally and unintentionally have been kind of hinting at that track at various points in my albums. I mean, Content Madness has the A minor to G chord progression. Come and Go, I didn't realize this, but I did the drawing that Dottie ended up finishing for the record on the back of a set list for a gig that you and I did actually at the Rustin Center. And that set list had Alone on it. And the drawing, when it was ended up being photocopied and then given to Dottie, you ended up being able to see the words Alone backwards on the guy's chest as he was falling. And I didn't realize that happened, but when that happened, I was like, that's fucking cool.
It's it.
Not even just in terms of like my own meta world, but just like to have it say Alone on the album like that is cool because that's the feeling of that album Alone. So when Tim was doing those chords and it was those chords again with a slight twist, I was like, we're back in this space again. I'm familiar with this space. And I feel like anybody who keeps up with my music will also be familiar with this space. In a way, it kind of is a closing track to this Super Jack catalog, at least at the
Right,
moment.
right. I was kind
Yeah.
of thinking the same thing. Like when the familiarity happened at first, I was like,
Yeah.
yo, this is really on the nose. But then as soon as it got into it, it was really just like, yeah, but you know what? This is really fitting, as a very like this is the obvious callback. And since it happens on the lingering,
Yeah.
that's also really fitting because literally that progression has lingered. Literally the
No,
music
literally.
has lingered. So when you get there and it has a familiarity to it, I'm like, damn, that's poetic in a very fucked up sort of way.
No, yeah, and like I was very convinced because of I was making this film and at the time I was making this film and that the track existed that this was going to be my last album. It just felt like a last album at this point, especially when we did Whirlpool, which was felt like the most finite ending ever. And I was just kind of like, I don't know where to go from here. Now I figured out where to go because there is no end to this. It lingers, we linger, but like it definitely felt like this was a sort of end of an era, start of a new one moment. And I'm glad that that was captured on that song. I love that song. It's my favorite song of mine right now.
Word,
I
word.
love it.
Did you did you do the instrumental portions of all the songs first?
When in terms of creating them, yes. I think
Right.
the only one. Let me go through them one by one, actually, because I don't know if it's that clear cut of an answer.
Like,
Didn't.
and what I mean by that is obviously you typically have to have a song before you have words for the most part.
Yeah.
But I'm more asking in terms of like, um, were there ones where everything was complete and then you were starting to try to figure out what it was, or was there a lot more where you were in the middle and you're like, okay, I'm doing this?
Um. Well, I wouldn't necessarily like. I almost did a pun, but I'm not going to do a pun. I don't. I was going to say linger because, of course. I didn't necessarily like do an instrumental and then tuck it away. I'm the type who needs to finish a track. So if I liked it, I would work on it right away. If I didn't work on it right away, more than likely it was getting cut. The only exception to that rule was probably the after party, honestly. Like Prismatica, I had the chords, and then wrote the words, and then a lot of the over stuff came. Cannot Know, I basically wrote it at home, and then the band fleshed it out. Um, After Party, I just went through that. We had the instrumental first, obviously, for that one. Hurtful, I also wrote at home, and then the band fleshed it out. Sunstrike was a jam, so of course that instrumental came first. Fallen Again, I had it written, sort of, and then I tweaked it and rearranged it, and the lingering, the instrumental came first, sort of, like the chords happened and the idea, and then the vocals came. Whirlpool, again, was written at home. I did a lot of writing at home for the tracks that made it on this album, which, if the bandmates are watching, will make it kind of seem like the spontaneous jams were for naught, but they were for something. They were good. But yeah, a lot of this album was either thoroughly thought out or spontaneously thought of, and picking the pieces up from that to make the song. That was the vibe of it.
You know what lingers?
What?
My back pain.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew this man was going to say that. I knew it. I knew he was going to say it.
Yeah, it's on brand.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite song off the record? I'm curious.
Shit. I was honestly thinking about that myself. I'm not quite sure. Prismatica is the one that stays in my mind the most, but I'm not sure it's like, you know how you have like the one cut that's like the most replayable, but it's not the one that's the most interesting necessarily.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of feel like with Prismatica to some extent. The lingering was hitting today. Yeah,
As it should.
I don't know. The lingering was smacking today, more than normal.
I mean, I just said that's my favorite. I'm glad you like Prismatic. I'm glad people like Prismatica so much in general, because people don't usually like my noisy shit, but everyone, when I show them Prismatica, they automatically get it, which makes me think I'm getting better at incorporating my noises, or maybe people have gotten more used to it, or maybe a combination of both.
Well, I think with Prismatica, it sounds focused, like, and that's not a diss to like the unfocused noise shit at all, because that's obviously a creative choice. But in Prismatica, there's still a certain things that still feel tame, and when it gets noisy, it's a climax. In a similar way to like with the blue screen, the distortion on the drums is a climax. So I think that's what works about it the most. It has a very just like a build up and then the cinematic climax. It's say it makes sense. say it's like no reason to misunderstand why it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's like one of those things where The Lingering's my favorite track, which is why I made the title track. Prismatica is probably my favorite production on the song, simply because I did most of it, so it's like an accomplishment for me. But I would say that probably the best song on the record is Hurtful. I think that for me is kind of the album's sort of centerpiece in a way. I feel like that's kind of it's the heart of the album. I feel like that's kind of, if people are to take away one song from it, it's probably gonna be that one. I think. Do you agree with me on that or no?
It sort of fades in and out of my consciousness, so I'm not sure.
Fair
I
enough.
think I need to hear the album more, because I feel like with Hurtful, I don't know if I like it less, or if it's more just that it doesn't linger in my mind as much. But I do think it was interesting, because I almost forgot it was there, and then when it was a pleasant surprise when it was there. So it was like, yeah.
I feel that. I remember I had the chords for that one, and I had the song, and it was beautiful, and I was loving it a lot. And because I love that spin around a four-way circle, spin around a no get out. Well, no, that's not a lie. I messed it up. Spinning around a four-way circle, spinning around with no way to get out. I love that line. I think that line is really cool. I think it emphasizes, I love driving, but for some reason, when I'm in the front seat of someone's car, I feel like I'm going to die. And I feel like that song captures that feeling, that state of mind, that you're in a car with somebody, you don't necessarily know this person fully, even if you do, but you're just spinning around this intersection, this four-way circle, but there's no way to get out of what you're feeling.
Right.
And of course, a lot of it is metaphors for other stuff.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah.
For what? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to give people a little bit of insight. Hurtful and Whirlpool are definitely full of metaphors.
Word. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was noticing the lyrics on
Yeah.
Whirlpool a lot more on my last listen.
Yeah, Whirlpool is something. I remember I showed it to Chris, and he was like, "You writing you like writing lines about TVs." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Good
you
point,
do.
Chris."
I mean, the fuck, um, MWM, of course.
Yeah, I mean that
That's
was
the
the first
obvious
line of
one.
mine that I really liked, like because I didn't really like my lyrics that much at that point, but I liked the TV makes me feel lonely. I kind of liked that as a kid. I was like, that's
It's
kind
a
of hard.
you know what it sounds like? There's this fucking joke in Phineas and Ferb where like Doofenshmirtz is writing poetry and he says the TV is gray. I would like something to eat.
Well, now I hate it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think you've done a better TV shit. Like, I think
Yeah.
you've improved a lot lyrically from all of the Room 13 shit and from MWM. Like,
Yeah.
MWM is still like a hard ass song, but like, there's no doubt that you surpassed it lyrically. Like,
I wish I had known you better. I find I can't do better. I wish
right,
I'd known you.
right, very,
I
yeah,
find I can't. People
right,
still want me to play that damn song all the time. And they're like, bro,
all the time.
move on.
Can you move on? I said,
I'm not even in room 13. It'd be one thing if I was still in room 13. It's like, okay, we'll play MWM. But like,
they need to get on Apocalypse Raid. That's what it is.
bro, Apocalypse Rave is I forgot about that song until like a few months ago. I love that song.
Because you've just done so much shit, you know, like,
I,
and with COVID and everything, it feels like so much fucking time has passed since then. And I can confirm because I was also at that video shoot.
You were killing it in that video. Like y'all, like, I was watching it, and you and Chris are convincing as villains, even though you both are my best friends. And
Shit, I was the hero. You were going crazy.
he said, "You're the villain. You're the person everyone
Exactly,
hated."
you're the villain.
Why does this guy just keep walking around? Sing the damn
Right,
song.
exactly. What's wrong with you? Stay focused. Come on now. Can't be wilding out here in these Princeton streets. Said, I was trying to remind you that this is a white establishment. You have to play the part. I was a hero. I don't know what she is. But yeah, nah, it feels like a long ass time since then, honestly.
I like how you focused a lot on more of the album cuts, I guess, because you haven't really asked me anything about Cannot Know, and I know that that's one of the.
Yeah, this is interesting. Which is funny because I was also thinking, damn, cannot know stands out, but I guess I didn't have any much questions about it, so I kind of forgot.
It's a song about murder.
Sure.
I mean, like when she walks in, she grasps the floor. When she walks
Yeah.
out, she
You know
will not
what?
come.
Funny, now that you mention it, I totally before I got on this damn call was looking at the lyrics and I'm like, why did she grasp the floor though? That's like maybe that's like me. Maybe I should ask. Gets on call, completely forgets.
This is going to be a long video for people watching. Hello, people who are still here.
Well, I
And
mean, you'll probably chop some of it or something.
yeah. I mean, if I can get somebody to edit it, yeah. If no one's editing it, I'm just putting this up raw. Like,
I could probably edit it, but I don't know how timely that's gonna happen. I said I don't know.
Up to you. Your jurisdiction and call on that. But yeah, Cannot Know. I mean, if you are actually no, because in case we don't edit, I'm not going to go to the bathroom right now and call.
Is it? All right. Be back in 2 minutes.
But yeah, Cannot Know. I wanted to write a song that sort of was a lighthearted take on some of my darker times. I definitely touch a lot on my dark times in my records. I feel like Come and Go is probably the most toxic record I've ever made in that sense. And even more so than Lost Confusion, because I do feel like Lost Confusion is toxic. It just is a more relatable toxic. But yeah, and I'm getting off track. Cannot Know When You're Not There. It was originally going to be called I Cannot Know When You're Not There, with the I Cannot Know being in parentheses, which was dumb. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, did I tell you not to do it's like I remember you asking me. I don't remember what I did or did not tell you.
Because I remember I was like, where should the parentheses be? And you were like, I don't care. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to put them before. And then I was like, that's dumb. Let me put them after. And I was like,
I love how my responses either be very specific or I don't know. Fucking song. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I was like messaging you back and forth on this song because I was like, I feel like the song is missing something, but I don't know what it is. What is
what is it? What is it?
But anyway, I love the 60s because the 60s you'd have these like little ditties by the Beatles and they'd be about killing your lover. And I was just like, I kind of want to write a song like that. And it's just
you wanted to make the one song that the YouTubers be like, these are about top 10 songs that you completely misunderstood.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them are really obvious, and other ones are just like, damn, you're right. Some of them are really obvious though. Like, let's not. What was the one? Every breath you take. Yes.
Yeah.
We all knew that was a stalker song. We just all decided we didn't care. It's like, no, we knew what the
people
song
be getting
was.
Married to that though. Is right. The thing.
I know. Yes, they do. But it's like, to me, it's like, no, we knew what it was about. We just decided that we didn't care because that shit is a bop, and I'm gonna make love to this.
Fucking cannot know. Yeah. So I was like, this will be a dark little 60s love song about murder, Maybe we'll get a nice little like rock vibe from AE Soul. But they came in and they kind of made it more soulful, low key.
Yeah, it's pretty damn soulful, I was about to say.
Is like, because it kind of is a soul, and I guess all the 60s rock songs are all white people trying to do soul music and failing, so it's like it's rock now, but like they kind of brought out that it is white person trying to do soul, but we are a black band, so we'll make it soulful. They like added this dance vibe to it, Sammy on the congas and shit, and like the little organ fills, which are actually Sophia, fun fact, and I just made it sound like an organ because I wanted to give it that Otis Redding vibe and shit. And then, Zaire's coming in with the harmonies on the chorus, and it's nice. It's some good stuff. It's some nice alternative soul for you.
With a thought. Yeah, no, it smacks. It smacks. Might be my favorite vocal delivery from you on the album.
That's interesting because I made that one when I was reteaching myself how to sing, because they're not wrong when you say you have COVID, you feel like you have a new pair of lungs. So that was the first song I did after being told that I was okay to publicly go outside. You still have COVID, but you're no longer contagious, which I didn't fully understand at the time, but I was like, whatever, I can go outside.
You're just kind of like, well, that sounds like bullshit, but I want to go outside. So
yeah, exactly.
I said, thanks, Doc.
So I had that song written before I was bedridden for a while, or couch ridden, I guess I should say. And so I had the song written. I was like, fine, I can do this song. I don't know how I'm going to sing it because it goes all over the place, octaves. So we're going to have to retrain ourselves how to sing. So there's a very different tone on that song in comparison to the others. And I think that kind of makes it stand out a bit because you're not the only person who says that song has a very good vocal. And I think because it's a different tone of sorts.
Yeah, no, the different tone. I remember that that was the one you said you had to train it. It said it worked out. It worked out.
I'm compressed on it. I don't usually like compress my voice like that, so that also adds to it. Yeah. I'd be compressing your voice all the time when I'd be mixing for you, but
yeah, say.
Except for the new one, the tortoise and the hare, I didn't do any compression on that. I left that raw because I was like, no, that needs to be raw.
Right.
And do you want to look at the one sheet one last time before we wrap this up? See if you have any last.
Just make sure there's no surprises or some shit. Trying to fuck with me. More window shit. It's a lot of windows. It's a lot of windows.
On the site of a groove.
Shit. I don't think so. You covered all the saxophone. No. I think I think that's it.
All right, then you got anything you want to say to wrap this up then?
Shit, isn't that your job? I say.
I guess so. This isn't the end, even though it feels like it.
Hey, don't jinx it. Go knock on wood. I don't try you. God said it's not. It's not.
And we all, I guess I should just say, I view my depression now as clouds and shit. It's like the clouds are always there. The depression's always there, but there's a sky, there's a sun, there's a moon, there's things to look forward to, there's things to see, there's things behind those clouds. So even if those clouds linger on forever, you're going to be fine.
The sun will peak.
Yeah.
It will not be a white sky day every day. It will not be a gray day every day.
Yeah.
It will and not be a rainy day every day.
Sometimes it'll storm. Sometimes you'll just be waking up and it'll storm, and that'll suck, but it's not going to storm forever. Unless it does, because we really fucked up the climate. But
actually, I have no idea what the environment is doing at all. But in theory, it won't be forever. It hasn't been so far.
Yeah. This metaphor might be dated at some point.
He said, "Good luck, green sky, motherfuckers."
I think that's a good place to end it. I'm gonna stop the recording.